14th, 2025, 2 p.m. and we're here for an update on encroachment complaints by Minde Beehner. And I will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you for again taking the time to meet with me. Sydney had worked really hard to make sure that all the commissioners were here, but apparently Mr. Dose is yet missing another meeting. So anyway, I'm going to go over what I'm hoping will be the final time with you guys. And some of this is a little bit of history, and I brought, in case you wanted to look at, like one copy of everything so that I'll hand it to you, but it's coming back to me kind of thing. Okay. So, all right, as most of you are aware, this project of mine, I started keeping track of written notes on August 8th of 2016. So we're approaching 9 years. I started taking the notes of my meetings with Frosty, who was the roads department head at that time, so I'd have some proof of how long things had been going on. On February 14th of 2017, I met with Mike Fitzgerald, John Hanson, and Jay Huber, Frosty Greenfield, and Dan from P&Z. Frosty had sent a letter out to, at that time, the Ludwigs, telling them to remove a tree off of F Street. The BOC and I went over a lot of the concerns with the encroachments. The BOCC stated that if F Street was given up, the Tapmans would have to move the pole off of Tomshe. At that time, in 2017, I had notified the county that we would oppose giving up any street or alley without replacing it with something. And Frosty did not like the idea either. He was talking about a cul-de-sac at the end of Tomshe Avenue. In the BOCC notes from that meeting, they were going to contact DEQ and get White's fence moved, and that was in John Hanson's written notes. None of that's taken place. June 19th of 2017, I informed Frosty that there was more fencing going up around at the time, the Tapman's properties, and he had asked if the tree had been removed from Ludwig's. I said no. July 20th of 2017, let's see, Frosty in email says he will contact Ludwig's and give him until July 31st of 2017 to remove the tree. If not, he will turn it over to the prosecuting attorney's office for legal procedures. In August of 2017, I don't have the exact date, in a meeting, the BOCC had asked Dan to go look into the fencing on the county roads and other violations. In August 29th of 2017, I sent a formal letter to the BOCC about landlocking and encroachment issues. On September 28th of 2017, I met with Frosty again to touch base. We talked about ideas for moving F Street because it connected to Brookside Avenue and to BLM's property in the back. He asked me to draw up a plan that he and I had kind of talked about so he could bring it and show it to the BOCC. So this is a really terrible copy of, like that part of the plat, but I was just showing where F Street could get moved to along the end of Tomshe Avenue in order to be able to vacate the alley and F Street. And I did, again, not an engineer, did rough measurements of what the lots were supposed to be, and it came out fairly close. The landowner at the time would have gotten a little less, would have given up a little more land than what they were going to get, but the difference was pretty minute. So in September of 2017, the first relocative F Street map was given to the Board of County Commissioners and the Roads Department, and that was it. So let's see. In October of 2017, at a department head meetings, Mike Fitzgerald stated that he wanted to get all the neighbors together to talk about issues. In May 15th of 2018, I spoke with Mike about when things were going to get moving with the road issues. Mike wants all the owners involved to have a survey done. It was the engineering side of him. I informed him more construction was being placed on areas in question. Mike was going to send Dan to get pictures, and look, through public records requests, I've shown that this never took place. I requested a letter go out telling everyone to halt until issues were resolved. Mike said absolutely and wanted it back on the agenda. Neither of these things ever took place. In June 26th of 2018, Mike asked Frosty and Carol, the weed superintendent and Frosty's assistant at the time, to look into the P&Z's budget to see if there was some legal, or in the legal line of their budget, to see if there was some money to cover surveying up Burke Road. In July, at the end of July of 2018, there was a department head meeting, and Mike Fitzgerald said he wanted a pro to come out because none of the county maps really showed the area, which is untrue. There's a clear platted map, and a lot of the maps have it. The assessor's office, everyone has mappings of what's there, but he needed to know where things were built. Wanted to know before he started a plan. Should hear from a pro in 2 weeks. August 2nd of 2018, public records requests revealed that on May 7th, 2018, Lene Tapman had put in a petition to vacate F Street and the alley. No one has ever brought that up to me in any of the meetings or the discussions that we had in the previous 3 months. This is the note that was in Planning and Zoning's file for Lene Tapman's request to vacate F Street. This is the only thing the Tapmans ever did to request a vacate, even though...
One second. They are the ones that had the garage in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And the alley block.
Okay, yeah.
Those are Tapmans.
And again, if a name doesn't make sense to you or something, just ask me to stop and tell you. So this is the extent that they did for filling out a request to vacate. Even though there is a clear form that is a petition to vacate, this form was never filled out. None of the work that was presented at when they finally came to the point, again, this is May of 2018. None of the, well, I'll get to that when I get there. So anyway, I find out that there's been a petition to, or a request to petition to vacate. At the end of August of 2018, I emailed the BOCC secretary after a public records request to ask follow-up questions to see if Dan's checking on encroachments and side issues took place. I never got an answer back from her. In December of 2018, I requested site ordinance or line of sight ordinance from Monica at P&Z, and then spoke with her about the trees, some trees that needed to be trimmed when you come in off of Burke Road on E Street and turn to go up Tomshe Avenue. She said the BOCC was wanting to get the area surveyed, and once they knew for sure where road locations, then additional trees would be taken care of because they had trimmed up a couple trees. The problem right now was they were not knowing for sure where the edge of the road was. Then on, let's see, March of 19, through a public records request, I discovered that the county, the BOCC, was hiring a surveying firm to help with easements or road modifications, and then it was to accommodate a proposed turnaround. So I was obviously very excited. This was the first surveyors that came in, which were Alta. There was not a cap put on that bid, but the last tracking that I could find anything for up in the Canyon Addition area, they are the ones that produced, well, I might get to it in just a second.
So did they record that survey?
They did not, because it got to a point where Keisha, no, those are Strattons, where Keisha, remember in May of 2018, a request for a petition was put into planning and zoning, and the commissioners who were going to sit as judges of that request were intimately involved in the entire process of the surveyors and what was going on between the request being done and the hearing ever taking place. So the original, like I said, Alta, the original one, the county, or not the county, taxpayers spent $12,057.86 to get, this is the final, like, the final main map
Altas.
from Alta's that they had done. So they had, you know, they had quite a lot of detail on it, but
Did they do any staking?
they did not put any pins in the ground.
No
they
pins.
did do some staking out there. There were no pins.
No pins.
Because what it ended up being was, again, this was supposed to be to accommodate a turnaround at the end of Tomshee Avenue, kind of a cul-de-sac area. Or at least that's what the BOCC was telling me. I don't know what planning and zoning was doing with Tapman's and Alta, because as the time went on, there is no map from Alta that shows anything about a cul-de-sac turnaround. The only things that have come out of that are exhibits that were used for Tapman's hearing to vacate F Street. I'm getting out of line. So Alta, like I said, they did this one. These are obviously versions off of them. These were all things dated May 8th of 19, December 11th of 19, and then the main one that is interesting is the hearing for Tapman's. I'm trying to find the exact date for you so I don't misquote. Gosh, where'd it go? Didn't like the idea of county roads. It was in 2020. No, it was, okay. So the hearing for Tapman's was scheduled for October 19th, 2020. This legal description from Alta for a right-of-way vacate and a Shoshone County parcel are both stamped and dated April 7th of 2020.
So Alta
6 months before a hearing took place.
So Alta is now working for Chapman's?
No, Alta is working for Dan Martinson and P&Z.
And asking a request to abandon.
No, their Tapman's request to abandon, all Alta is doing is trying to arrange either through, Mike Fitzgerald was kind of the lead for this part, so either through the BOCC or Dan or Alta or a combination of, someone came up with the great idea of, we're going to abandon F Street and the alley to the Tapman's, and they are going to give us this little tiny corner to push snow into.
Ever before a public hearing.
Before, yeah, like I said, she had, I feel what happened, came in and made a request to do it. Someone within the courthouse downstairs, I believe, who has tried to get this version pushed through, you know, well above what a normal, I think, planning and zoning person would do, gets the request in May of 18. The commissioners finally decide, all right, we're going to see what's going on up there. There is surveying and things done, but they're not a survey for a roundabout. All the surveys from Alta end up coming up with nothing but this abandonment of a road and abandoning it without a hearing. They're just, you know, they've got a legal description. This was in a public records request in the prosecuting attorney's office's file, that before a public hearing or anything else, 6 months before it, they've decided to do a abandonment and swap land. In fact, I think that's what Dan wrote on one of the maps, was land swap with the Tapman's for a snow storage area. They were avoiding doing, they did not want to do a public hearing. They just wanted to do this between the county And,
So how can they do one of my questions is how can they abandon a road or anything without a survey?
But that's up to the homeowners to get the legal description, but the county did that themselves.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. If the Tapmans wanted to get this piece of property abandoned and give the county a piece of the land, which I don't think that they even in the end, they just wanted the abandonment part. I don't think they wanted to give up a piece of their land. But this goes back to literally all they did was write a note. The rest of it was done in planning and zoning. Their packet, when you do a request to vacate, you're supposed to get the mailing list of the people that are around you. You're supposed to get the street and location to be, like a general description of it. You're supposed to go to the assessor's office and make sure you've got the legal of what the lots are. You're supposed to go to the treasurer's office and make sure the taxes are taking care of everything. You're supposed to attach a vicinity, a map, assessor's map highlighting specific area to be vacated, list of surrounding property owners within 300 feet, and pay the fees for the mailing and the publishing. You're also supposed to, if you're going to do it, be part of your case is, like you said, having a surveyor come out and do it. Planning and zoning had Alta come out, write a very good legal description. I mean, I just did some stuff on our main property and have paid a surveyor over $3,000 to do my legal descriptions and stuff, and this was all done by Alta, on taxpayers' dollars for planning and zoning. And in the end, portions of it were used when they went towards the public hearing, because Tapmans did not really want to give up the little corner piece of land. But this was all, again, like I said, no one knows this is going on. Alta, was supposed to be hired to just survey the area, know where the roads and the stuff are, and for $12,000, all the taxpayers got was, these maps show where roads are and things, but there's no pin in the ground, and there's, nothing given to the commissioners to be able to make a decision on. All they got was a legal description to do a road abandonment that was being handled by P&Z. So anyway, that's, and just to show that it, again, I'm off on my stuff, to show that it, how screwy it was, the first agenda for the week of the day of Monday, October 19th, 2020, there was a 9:30 meeting for acquisition of Charles and Lene Tapman's property located at the end of Tomshie Avenue for snow storage. Discuss, review, consider, action item. At 10 a.m., there's a public hearing to discuss and consider a petition presented by Charles and Lene Tapman to vacate and abandon all real property, known as the right-of-way and blah, blah, blah. So at this point, not through my nose, by this point we have discovered that, okay, there's stuff going on, we need to get legal counsel. Our counsel called the court, or the prosecuting attorney's office, and lo and behold, there was that was posted on 10/14/2020. On 10/15/2020, there was an amended agenda posted with, on Monday the 19th, a 10 a.m. public hearing. And now, all of a sudden, on Wednesday, there is a meeting at 11 o'clock to discuss acquisition of property from the Tapmans. So at least they've got it in the right order now. We'll do the pretend like we're going to have a real public hearing, and we'll just go ahead and vacate the land, and then in a couple days we'll get the property back from them.
For snow storage.
For snow storage. So again, I can't make this stuff up, and it's like all I do is bring up every time I bring something up, like this, they amend an agenda or whatever to make it look right. And so that's why, like I said, you have a little blurb of what went on. you have a smaller blurb of what went on. So that's why I was trying to kind of do a history back and show some of the information that we had gotten that gets me to the point of, you know, pulling my hair out. So anyway, we're at the Alta stuff. In October, I think it's October 3rd of 2019, the BOCC passes a new nuisance ordinance. It's Ordinance 160. Encroachments and road blockage are listed as nuisances. I formally file nuisance complaints with P&Z for all the things that I've been trying to get taken care of before. The complaints get bumped up. Well, first of all, so that was, again, mid-October of the beginning of October 2019. In February of 2020, my complaints, because again, we had an ordinance and then we have no idea how to do a process with the ordinance. In February of 2020, my complaints went up to the prosecuting attorney's office finally. In February 12th of 2020, let's see, through public records requests, we discover the survey work has basically turned into only dealing with Tapman's request to vacate F Street and the alley, along with locating the new E Street, because that's another thing that comes into it. There was property in 2012 down here, excuse me, right here. A woman put a garage and her trailer on E Street. She had to do a land swap, and they did a bump in this road for a guy's garage. But when she got the alleys and part of E Street vacated, she had to give up these 2 lots that she owned at the far end of her property. They happened to abut up next to Tapman's property. And so the county always referred to it as, that'll be the new E Street. So now E Street comes in like this. It goes up Tomshie Avenue. This is what the county's calling E Street. It then goes down Brookside Avenue, and then the E Street is back here in the original plat.
Did they vacate this?
That is on Tapman's property. When their yard was remediated, they just had a gravel path put in an area so they could park things on it.
Oh, so that's not
a road.
Right, that's not a road. Those are
okay.
supposed to be the road. And this is, I gotta dig in my pile. I can't remember the exact names of, but in reading back through.
And who's this person's name again?
White. All right, somewhere in here, I have, I had asked the assessor's office, because I read the resolution when this was given up, and I read all of the legals, and I walked through them. So this is a 20-foot alleyway that is behind Tapman's, and it used to go, you know, like I said, all the way down these blocks. There was a 20-foot alley between the front blocks, or front lots, and the back lots. So, and then this, like I said, is E Street going back. This is what's still there, and then this is like the dotted line of how, when it was vacated, half of it went with this lot, half of it was supposed to go with this lot. But when you go back and you read the legal, the southeasterly side, the 10 feet of the alley, and then this 20 feet of E Street is vacated to, and it has a certain parcel number, which happens to be this parcel number. So it's actually vacated to the county. I've requested that the assessor's office fix it, because this is a recorded document in that. And his response back to me was, we've talked in the office and we feel this is how it was supposed to be done. And I mean, I've looked up, like you guys' different job descriptions and stuff, and nowhere does the assessor have interpret legal documents. So I've been battling.
So has this been vacated, this alley?
No, that's what that's Tapman's section that wanted to. It's only the part down this way of the alley, and then the E Street and the side of the street. So And again, I mean, it's in here somewhere. I even, in order to make sure, because like this number in the resolution for this lot number was just, it was like a letter off of what it shows on the GIS now. So I reached out to the assessor's office and said, hey, I'm confused. He replies back to me, and again, I can pull the email out after I'm done talking, but I just don't know where I've got it in my pile yet. He replied back to me that, you know, these lots, and he listed 3 lots that were in the resolution, are now this lot. And the one in question matched up perfectly to what the assessor said. So there's currently, everyone is assuming that, you know, like this is just a big area that got vacated to them, but there is a 10-foot alley still and a 20-foot roadway, which is nice to the Brookside, because there's other people that own property down here.
And this is recorded. And it's recorded that the county gets half and the other person gets the other.
Yeah, the resolution. So, so anyway, we're back to finding that, you know, like the East Street in the land swap with landowners that built originally, but oh yeah, the county had no clue. So this was all surveyed during this 2012 when the land swap took place, but yet it's surveyed. Her pins are here and stuff's down here. Nobody ever came up and with that survey. I mean, I would assume if you're swapping lands, you should probably survey. Mm-hmm. So the county had no idea. They and actually the whites that own this, their property got remediated and DEQ, because Matt actually did the final backfill on the property. He brought up to the oversight for DEQ at the time that, hey, you know, there's a road back here and stuff, and they just stick the fence up. So where this road got remediated, these people just went ahead. They had the county lot fenced in, and they had part of Tapman's fenced in. So at one point that I'll get to, Keisha did make the roads department go out, and they again saw this road and figured that was probably what you had to measure off of or whatever. So they removed some of the fencing, but part of the county lots are still inside this lady's, I mean, part of these county, so like her fence kind of runs
probably about 10 to 15 feet.
Yeah, Stratton's might. There's so many dang little bleepy lines on here that.
So these lots here, are they wide enough? Are they now a right of way? Is that what those lots are?
Yeah, that's what it was. They were going to swap those 2 lots to make that E Street to be able to get back to Brookside Avenue that's back here. But again, after it was done, nobody, you know, followed through, especially because her fence was around everything. And so from 2012 until maybe 2021, she had those county lots completely fenced in. Right now, if you drive up Tomshe Avenue, there is like a grassed area going back that is part county, and it's part this Tapman people's property. Their fence stops before their actual property does, because when they were doing their fencing, this lady already had everything fenced, so they just went up to it, you know. And so yeah, so that's where it gets kind of like, I mean, it's just crazy.
So this whole
that whole thing,
this whole thing, the whole alleyway is now part of that, not
only to this point.
Only
to this point.
And it should have been just this. And they should have split the alleyway between the 2 there. Right?
Yeah. I mean, if they had done it, I guess maybe right. I don't know. Maybe the old commissioners knew, which was not. It was like back in 2012. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they were trying to keep an access open to this part back here. All I know is that's what the document says. You know, did they mean to do it the way that it's written on here? Maybe.
So this is still county. This alleyway right here is still county.
Is county, and so is 10 feet of it, and
Oh,
so
10
is
feet.
and so is 20 feet of the rest of the, like East Street is 40 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
So this 20 feet got vacated to this lot. This 20 feet that would, I hate writing on these maps, but like 20 feet out and 10 feet
Mm-hmm.
should be like this, and it should come, well, actually that isn't done. So it would come in and go like this. So you'd have like 20 feet down to 10 feet, and then the 20 feet for the roadway, plus these two lots. And these are 40 by 100, each of them, with a 20-foot alley in between.
So I guess the whole point is nobody can make the decision to give that land up that's recorded except for you guys and a judge.
Or a judge, yeah. But
And
currently
your
the
planning and zoning is the commissioners and judge, and so is the assessors.
Because just recently I had said there was new stuff going up. Well, actually, yeah, now based off of this. So beside this, this is an older woman that owns all of this stuff. There are some people that are taking care of her. There is I said there were poles going in. I didn't know if it was a structure or what. Dan sent, I'm not sure if it was all of you or if it was just you, Jeff, that after his extensive research that it's an enclosed garden bed with a dog kennel in it and stuff. So it's like, okay, I don't know. But my concern was not really so much that it was that they were building something, but I don't know where this line is. Neither do they. So if this is, they're trying to say this is the middle of the alley and half went to this lot, which would be fine. But if they've got that structure built on this side, currently 10 feet of that still belongs to the county. And we don't know where that is, but they're building. And Dan said that, he's looked at it and that was all legally given to Mrs. White in a vacate of blah, 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 which again, I have in this portion here. But you can't make that kind of statement when you don't know where the alley line is.
Because they never surveyed it.
Because, well, it was surveyed, they never pinned it. Like I said, if you were to take the aerial that Alta did, they have all of the lines where things should be, which, is pretty close. Matt and I, when we built the shop, we had our lot surveyed, and we were 10 feet off, I think on that side. Yeah, 10 feet off on this side, and we had to be our 25 whatever setback, because we used F Street as our front of the building or front of the property for our approach. So, that looks fairly close to the 10 feet off our lines. And so if you look in comparison, the garage is clearly in F Street. Telephone poles are clearly in F Street. A portion of the red shop thingy is in F Street. Here, that structure is out there, but I don't know where this is being built in comparison. The new structure that went up, don't know where it's being built in comparison. It may be all on this side, but they're building because they figure that this got all abandoned and it's all theirs. So, I'm not faulting them or anything, but again, this is something that I've tried to get the county to clear up so that everybody knew where things were, and neither planning and zoning or the assessor's office will address it.
So you lost, so this is gone for access to this property. Where do you get access to this property here?
It's her property, so it's she owns all of that stuff down around there, and then this other guy. So yeah, and this is all like flat area, and that's another thing that I was, people could, if something were to happen and her relatives want to sell off and or they want to stay there now and start building a house or something, you go from owning this big amount and not giving a rat's patootie on where roads are or whatever, so you just build.
Get some clarification. This is actually Brookside Avenue. This is a street. This is all fenced off.
By her. These guys had to have theirs pulled up finally because BLM told them they had BLM's marker fenced into their yard, and BLM
So
told them
this
to
is
get it off.
Brookside Avenue,
Yep,
this
Yes.
little
right
piece right
down through
here.
here.
Right, and then these are Brookside Development's lots, and then other people own going down around the corner.
So Brookside is 60 feet wide, so there's 60 feet of county property fenced off.
So this would be the only way into that.
Right.
Yeah,
plus this.
currently the only
Would this go into that?
this meets Brookside Avenue, but only by like just under 2 feet. So it's not really a. That's where we were looking at being able to bore under and connect to Brookside, because we can bore under that small 2 feet area and be able to get back to it. This, I think, like I said, I mean, Brookside is still important. This is BLM's land. And so currently the only access, you know, you're not supposed to take away roads that go to BLM lands or whatever. This was all platted in 06, as in 1906, not 2006. This was all platted, and this would have, you know, F Street, you could have gotten to, well, I guess not completely on F Street, but E Street, you would get into Brookside there and then on to BLM's land. Now you have to.
There's only one way in.
Yeah.
And that's blocked by part of her fence.
You guys part of it is still in her yard. Brookside is a good portion of it in this corner is, and then like where it turns, who knows, going around.
I think there is not a survey thing, but HMH's wood stake is still in this fence lot.
Yeah, that's the
I
second
believe
survey.
I don't know if it's been moved since.
We haven't gotten there yet,
Okay.
so. But, so anyway, all right, the requests are up at Keisha's office. We've discovered that they're just working on a land swap and in my opinion, looking to do something without even doing a public hearing. But because we found out that they had a request to vacate and they were trying to do this stuff, you know, like we started to be a little bit more aggressively pushing on like, hey, what's going on kind of thing. So in February 24th of 2020, we requested to meet with the BOCC to discuss access issues to the new lots that we had, well, not we, that as a managing partner, Brookside Development had purchased back there. Following our meeting, the BOCC's agenda stated that they were going to meet to discuss converting county-owned property to a right-of-way. So we were thinking, okay, they're gonna meet to finally like establish what are we gonna do to get this road opened and usable and stuff, because people are needing it. Let's see. However, this meeting, because we stayed at it, turned into just discussing the request to vacate Tapman's, or Tapman's request to vacate. The BOCC during that meeting decided to have Dan, and at the time the new, because I'm on to my third roads department person because it's now Jim Kaysen, to go talk to the Beehners or to the Tapmans about our proposal of moving F Street along this wall. And remember, the first map that I did for that was in September of 2017, so it's, you know, 2.5 years later they're now doing it, to move F Street in and to meet back in 2 weeks. Dan said fine, but he knew that the Tapmans would not agree. There was a lot of snow storage discussion during the meeting. We recorded both the meetings. Keisha was at both of these meetings, and in the public records request shows that Mike Fitzgerald had contacted Alta within about a half an hour of the meeting, and Alta's reply to his email stated that they would begin the legal description for snow and storage and road abandonments as discussed. So it was, I mean, it was basically just a say what you want to hear kind of thing to get us out of there, and then they were moving forward with what planning and zoning and apparently Mike Fitzgerald had already discussed to do with this area. Let's see. So actually it was in February 26th of 2020 when we decided that we needed to seek the legal help, because the project was becoming, instead of this project to survey, like this whole area to find out where roads were and where they were supposed to be, was now just turning into taking care of Tapman's vacate and the legal descriptions. So that's when we decided to get legal counsel. The 2-week follow-up from the February 24th, 2020 meeting, the BOCC meets to discuss, review, and decide next steps for petition to vacate from the Tapmans. During this meeting, Dan again said Tapmans didn't like the idea of swapping land, so there would be an F Street. He even said that they didn't like the idea of even giving up for the snow storage. BOCC instructed Dan to move ahead with the next steps. So at this point, finally in beginning of March of 2020, the BOCC makes the decision to start moving ahead with the Tapman's request from May of 2018. So for almost 2 years, the BOCC's had their fingers in all of this stuff, and different things have been going back and forth, and now it's like, okay, it's not going away. I guess we're going to have to do a hearing. Let's see. In August 20th of 2020, I sent a letter to Jim Kaysen demanding Roads Department do something about encroachments and get back to me by September 1st. He did not respond. September 1st, I emailed Jim Kaysen 2 pictures of more encroachments. He did not respond, but Keisha said her office was looking into it. So the prosecuting attorney's office is taking a more active role now in mid-2020 on what is going on with this area. In September 15th of 2020, the County Roads Department comes up and partially opens what's to be the new East Street, which is they moved a little section of fence. Keisha emails me and tells me that the road's open. The next day I email her and say no, it isn't, and sent her pictures. She didn't realize it had only been opened partially, and that she'll look into it. So we're now at October 19th, 2020, and the public hearing for Tapman's request to vacate F Street in the alley. Let's see. So again, we're October 19th of 2020, and the dates from Alta's maps for legals are in like February or April of 2020. So there's already legal descriptions before a hearing has happened or a decision has been made. Let's see, that was the agendas. Okay. Let's see, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Ben Allen was at the public hearing as it began. The county was not following even their own ordinances for public hearings and that. Tapman's did not even speak. Dan got up, made their presentation, showed their, the exhibits or whatever. And then when it came point for opposition to speak, Brookside Development's attorney pointed out that the BOCC was out of compliance. They weren't following their procedures, blah, blah, blah. And Mike Fitzgerald decided to stop the hearing. So we basically have the presentation of Tapman's side and then a screeching halt. Let's see. Then COVID happened. So we're in October of 2020. Ludwig's who live here had things all over on their property, and so
you can see them. There's buildings here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So in September 23rd of 2020, the board convened at, and I pulled it from the minutes, at 2 p.m. Keisha Oxendine was there as the prosecuting attorney to discuss canyon complaints. Dan Martinson was there, Monica Miller was there, Jim Kaysen was there, Jessica Stutzky was there, Jim Roletto with HMH Engineering, and Matt and Minde Beehner. They made a motion to go into executive session. When they came out, there was a motion made to direct staff to contact the Ludwigs on a notice of encroachment violations in the Canyon Addition on F Street. The motion carried unanimously. So in October 20 of 2020, the Ludwigs began clearing everything off of this right of way. There was, again, this was the only survey at the time. There was no pins in the ground, our pins from previous surveys, but Alta's survey, there was no requirement. They just got the letter of encroachments, which they had a letter back in 2017, but now it was like clear it all off. And they began in the middle of the rain tearing everything off of F Street because they had 30 days to do it.
Without a survey, they directed them to tear down buildings. So it looks to me like the county accepted this map by not having to go back and do any more surveying. Or the Ludwigs could have a complaint against being forced to tear things down that might not have been on the road if they wanted to.
Argue it.
Looks to me like the county accepted that map.
So, again, fall of 2020, they get their stuff torn out. March 23rd, 2021, the hearing to vacate this section of F Street in the alley is continued. It goes through, evidence is presented. Jim Kaysen states that the road was never, that F Street on that side was never an open road. That was the county's big argument, that it's not an open road. It was never opened. But maybe it's under my pile of stuff. Oh, for God's sakes. I have the picture, which some of you have seen, you might have seen in the evidence, and that from 1925, where you can see F Street. I hate it when he touches my papers. Where you can see F Street. We also turned in from 1970, what? When you're next? 75. Matt's mother took photos of Tomsky Avenue, and you can see F Street because there was barbed wire strung out that Matt tied up with in a motorcycle. So the county has, according to Jim Kaysen at the time and additional people since then, has only records that go back 10 years. There were hundreds of years worth of people living there that we had letters from that testified, yep, that street used to go through there. There was a trailer here. The power pole used to be back in this area. And until, lo and behold, a garage gets placed on the middle of it, it was an open highway. But when you place a garage in the middle of it, it kind of ceases to be an open highway. So the county has, in their findings of facts or whatever, has always taken the stance that F Street was not open, but yet the county has no proof and could provide no proof that it was never open, that would contradict photos and testimony of people that lived their lives here that said, yes, this is where the road went through. So anyway, the hearing goes on. On April 8th of 2021, the BOCC meets for the first of 3 follow-up meetings to get to a decision on this hearing. The attorney was on the phone. The BOCC had a ton of questions, none of which did they ask during the hearing or at the hearing time, that in their couple of weeks of time from it being off, they had come up with a bunch of different questions on like sewer moratoriums and things that would basically, most of all of their questions prevented us from trying to do anything back here on these lots. Again, the attorney was on the phone, and the BOCC was having different departments gather some more information for him. On the next day, Friday, the attorney sent an email to Keisha saying that the BOCC cannot go get more information, only the stuff that they'd heard in the hearing, and was presented to make a decision. On April 12th, Keisha emails the attorney saying the BOCC and the county admin will not seek any factual information past when the hearing was closed. But through public records requests, on April 12th, that same day, HMA bills 2 hours to Tapman's request right-of-way abandonment. Mike Fitzgerald's emails to Dan and Jim, subject line Tapman's application, P&Z Public Works request for additional information, is a detailed list of what each department is supposed to research and provide findings back to legal. The 13th, the next day, Mike Fitzgerald forwards his emails to the secretary and says, feel free to cut and paste where needed for the minutes. On the 13th also, HMH bills 2 hours for a meeting with Dan Martinson and Jim Kaysen to the Tapman vacate. One would only, again, the hearing was done, so I would assume that they were just asking these additional questions that were not supposed to be being looked into. So let's see. On 4/26, I emailed Keisha for an update on the complaints, and she gave me back mine are the red ones and stuff, but she was responding back to that they had already done a review from the stuff submitted last year, although those complaints will be reviewed again based upon your newest complaint submissions. She said on a quick review that the list of complaints indicated the nature of the complaints were encroachments rather than the traditional nuisance situation. Nuisance complaints received by our office are generally known as blight complaints, which typically involve broken down, non-registered, or inoperable vehicles, not with a permitted junkyard, garbage, rubbish, blah, blah, blah. I pointed out to her that the new ordinance for number 160 said that a encroachment was a nuisance, but anyway, they decided that they gave me a summary of what they had done, and her initial review of the complaints last year led me to the following conclusions, pending further action. But the Ludwigs, that the encroachment complaints, notice of encroachment and removal was necessary, which that had been taken care of. The Tapmans, no action would be taken on complaints related to Tapman's encroachments until a decision was made by the BOCC on the petition to vacate F Street, so they were holding on that one. She said the fencing and rerouting of East Street portion had been removed by the county department reps consistent with their understanding of the survey markers, which there were not survey markers out there, but that she needed to do some follow-up on that. And then the best one was a Vista. I sent a request for a Vista for any and all records of easements or legal authority pertaining to their authority to place power poles / personal property in that location. They responded, and the information provided appeared legally sound to support their position. I got the emails that Avista responded back to, and it's actually quite disturbing that just because you can put a bunch of words in order, it makes it sound legally sound, because Avista's biggest argument is that among other rulings, Ruling 70 provides that the taking of electrical service by the customer shall be deemed to constitute an agreement by and between the company and the customer for the delivery and acceptance of service under the applicable schedule of rates, blah, blah, blah. The county isn't their customer, the Tapmans are. So that to me is not very legally sound. The customer shall grant all necessary permissions to enable the company to install and maintain the service and permission. Again, it's not the county, but the Tapmans that would have to agree to that, and it would have to be on the Tapmans property or those properties. In this case, the Avista facility in question are necessary to provide services to the property in question. Consequently, receipt of electrical service is preconditioned on the consent that the maintenance of the facility on the property. Avista's obligation to provide service to that property. Again, Tapmans, not the county. And then their franchise right, it says the Avista facilities in question are located, Avista says they are located within public right-of-way. They admit that. For as long as Avista has provided electrical service within the city limits of Wallace, it has been party to a franchise agreement with the city, through which the city has granted Avista the express right to construct, erect, and maintain electrical facilities on and within public-owned right-of-way. In return for the right and privilege, Avista provides compensation to the city in the form of a percentage of revenue received from its customers located within city limits.
They're not located in city limits.
Thank you. This is the Canyon addition to the city of Wallace, is what it's called. So right there, again, I'm not an attorney, but it doesn't make a lot of common sense to me. Then they go into the prescriptive rights. There is a small portion of a Avista facility, however, which extends beyond the county right-of-way and onto Canyon Addition property, which, I don't think it does. I think it's all in the right-of-way. This portion of the facilities, although still permitted under Avista tariffs, would not be covered by its franchise with the city of Wallace. So they're saying this little part of their franchise of Wallace is in this, and it's like, it's not in the city. Let's see. Avista has long since acquired any necessary rights to maintain those facilities through adverse possession. You can't adversely possess county property. So to me, Keisha's part on that with it being legally sound to support their position, again, I'm just a mom, but I don't think any of those make common sense whatsoever. I did a public records request in April of 2021 to Public Works for any utility company easements or documentation that give them the authority to place obstructions in road intersections. So they ended up, what they had was they sent the sewer, I think this is the sewer. Yes, the sewer thing going up Canyon Addition, and a part of it comes across E Street and then goes this way, and a little piece comes up this way and goes that way. So the sewer has that. What they have from Avista is a right-of-way easement that Matt Beehner signed in 2014, which pertains to only a pole. We have a power pole here on the corner of our personal property. When this area was, the shop area was to be remediated, there was a power line that went from this pole down to here to a pole, over to here to the poles that are still in the intersection. We told Avista that, they had no easement for those poles to go onto that property anyway. They could not locate any. We said, we will give you an easement if you put it underground. So everything from this pole, we couldn't do anything. That provides power to our house. That pole is there. From that point, all the way down the side of our property, all the way over to here, is all underground until it gets to the pole that's in the intersection. And at that time, Matt had even talked to, again, it was still Frosty at that time, about, hey, you guys might want to get this pole taken care of now while they're up here doing this. And again, not everybody's sitting in the same room. So one story was Frosty's like, yes, jumping at the chance to get it underground and be done with it. And then Avista's representative is like, oh, we talked to Frosty and the roads maintenance guy, and they said the poles aren't a problem. So, and again, nothing happened. But the county got this on record as a reason to have, place obstructions in road intersections. This pertains to this lot only. I mean, honestly, the going underneath part here, I don't know if you have to have an actual easement with the county because you're all underground, but there is, you know, I don't know if they have an easement there. But the easements that the county could present that they think is fine for these poles to be there don't even pertain to these poles. Pole. Well, pole, and then, like I said, there's also some hubs. Okay, so Keisha had kind of done that thing to me, and again, it kind of was crazy. So I refiled all of my nuisance complaints again on April 27th of 2021. Keisha, then it just went straight up to Keisha, so she was going to be looking at them. April 29th, 2021, they had the second meeting to make a decision on the public hearing. Keisha stated that no further information would be gathered or viewed by the BOCC to aid in its decision. Also, which again, emails show that definitely wasn't the case. Also said that the legal guidance that BOCC was waiting on should be ready for them by May 6th. So May 6th, they have the third meeting, the third of 3 meetings to make their decision. The BOCC decided to deny the request and asked legal to prepare the findings of facts. May 19th, 2021, the finding of facts were finally signed. Also on May 19th, the BOCC in the meantime had contracted with HMH to look into Alta's survey and to go stake it, not pin it, but just stake it on the property or out there so that they could get an idea, because they were scheduling a site visit so they could come see if there were encroachments. So there were stakes placed along, like you know, showing where East Street was, the edge of it. There were stakes in these fields for Brookside.
There's stakes on this alley too.
Yeah, there was stakes down here on the alley. The stakes that were inside the fence here, the caregiver that was taking care of this person, you know, drove out in there and walked through and pulled them out. Some of them are still laying just there in the ground. They did it probably a couple weeks after the site visit, but the commissioners were able to come. They could see the 2 stakes for this alley, and I mean, one of them actually was looking and was like, well, what is this that's going right behind their house and that? And somebody said, well, so-and-so commissioner, that's the alley you just decided not to vacate. And because he was commenting about how much stuff was on that area. So again, there is possibly a trustworthy stake still out here, but like out here on the edge of Tomshe, but there are in what's supposed to be your lots, there are 4 stakes up, but they just showed up again about 3 weeks ago. Don't know who took them down and don't know who put them back up, but they're not in the right spot.
No, they're the HMH.
They're HMHs from 2021. But I'm just saying is, if you go out there and look, none of these stakes.
Yeah.
So HMH, like I said, they went out, they staked it so the commissioners could do a site visit on May 19th of 2021 and see if something was really an encroachment. The last that I could check on anything with HMH was for this area, putting some stakes in, making an exhibit that I'll talk to you about in just a second. The taxpayers had paid $5,888.70 for wooden stakes and
how much was that? HMH 5,000?
$5,888.70. So at this,
which HMH agreed with Alta's survey.
yeah, HMH. Basically, they went out and they agreed with the survey, and they basically put wooden stakes in, and then they were also working on.
So that just made the point.
I have to.
Alta for the county agreed with the pins. HMH did, and our surveyor, Chris Falls did too. So we got 3 surveyors so far that agree that, because our pin's right there on the corner with where F Street's at. And where Topsy Avenue's at.
And I tell you, I had to have left a chunk sitting at the house because the part of that $5,888 was, it said exhibit for F Street. And I kept asking Keisha, you know, where is this? I asked Public Works, where is this exhibit? You guys have paid for it. It's on the invoice. Where is it? Where is it? It wasn't until Miss Oxendine moved from the prosecuting attorney's office to the judge that they finally pushed HMH, and lo and behold, a map shows up. And again, I had to have stuck it somewhere. It is very reminiscent to one that was done by a bonehead in 2017, because all it is moving F Street along the wall. The big difference is because I don't know these things, that now if you move a road, it has to be 50 feet wide. So their stripe is 50 feet, mine was 40 feet. But taxpayers paid for that exhibit. I don't know who the exhibit was for or what's going to be done with it, but Public Works has it. So anyway,
I have just one quick question. You talked about a sewer moratorium, and what was that? What was
Commissioner Hansen was trying to find out if, like, oh, well, they can't do anything back here because there's a sewer moratorium in that. Well, there isn't. Where, because I've checked with the sewer. Go ahead.
There was about 5, 6 things that they wanted to find out after the public hearing was closed and before they made a decision, which you can't go gather evidence afterwards. And all of them was, one of them was floodplain issues. One of them was, I can't remember all of them. About 5.
All of it was things to just basically say, you guys can't do anything with this property, so
Right.
Why would we not vacate this road? You know, it's, again, we present something and then a lot of effort is put into, or money, to find ways not to, or to cancel what was presented. So they were thinking that, oh, you couldn't put, you know, sewer back here because there's already too much, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he was calling it, but no, come to find out, like I said, the sewer comes up here, and if it went back on F Street, you know, you're going down a canyon, so guess what? Poo flows downhill. So they're, you know,
Yeah,
it was.
They got stopped supposedly when Brookside's attorney got a hold of Keisha and said, you can't go look for new evidence.
So yeah, so that's what I mean.
so they didn't have, there wasn't.
No,
Okay.
there were
We
things.
don't know if they went out anyway, because Mindy's found in emails where things were happening after that was, they were
Yeah.
notified of it.
But it apparently, if they found anything, it wasn't enough that they were able to swing their decision from having to deny it to trying to find a way to grant it. So it was denied. Let's see. So again, they let's see. They've done the finding of facts, this and that. They did their walkthrough. So that was in like June 3rd of 2021. The BOCC met to discuss my list again. They decided at that point they were going to have Keisha look for survey bids, because Keisha had now pointed out to them that these complaints come before the commissioners. You guys can't really be involved in getting the facts and stuff. Again, they had been involved prior to a hearing, so who knows, kind of thing. So she was supposed to get the surveys and then ask HMH for an intersection opinion. Again, I mean, I'm not sure that you got to pay an engineer to look and see if at a 4-way intersection you should have poles in the middle of it, if that's a problem or not. So, but and at that point, Fitzgerald was saying that this kind of stuff takes up a lot of time, and we really need to get this done. So that was June of 2021. Nothing else happened until the Brookside Development's attorney reached out in like the end of September of 2021. There are, let's see. Oh, Keisha had, when I had resubmitted my complaints, she had said that she was reviewing the photographs and documents. Another review has been undertaken for your complaints for purposes of potential nuisance prosecution under county or state code. Based upon that review, prosecution is declined as the facts and circumstances alleged do not support a factual base upon which I believe we prove all of the elements of a crime, nor do I believe a Shoshone County jury would convict. Which, I mean, I've never argued. It was like their encroachment issues. This determination is not dispositive of the review to be undertaken by the BOCC, not Public Works, not Planning and Zoning, the BOCC, with respect to potential encroachment abatement action. Those issues have not yet been decided, but I anticipate the BOCC will be undertaking that decision process in the next few weeks now that they've completed their site review. So their site review was in May of 2021. Nothing has happened. So in the end of September, the Brookside Development attorney reached out and basically began pushing the prosecuting attorney that, hey, you guys have made a decision. You know, it was 4 years waiting to get a hearing done. The board made a site visit to the recorded rights of ways as well as to East Street and Brookside. The board minutes of that date reflect that the board wanted to see alleged nuisances and encroachments. One of the plainly visible encroachments included a garage on a road. At the next board meeting on June 3rd, 2021, the board discussed its site visit. According to both an audio recording of the meeting and the Shoshone News Press article, because the news press found out the commissioners were doing a site visit and they did a whole story on the nuisance complaints. The board chairman, Mike Fitzgerald, stated, when we went into the field that day, there were some pretty obvious encroachments. So decisions have been made. I mean, people are calling them encroachments. According to the board's meeting minutes, the board unanimously agreed to task you with the responsibility of contracting with the firm to complete the survey. Let's see, the board also wanted HMH to present in a written opinion on any safety issues the encroachments pose. Mr. Fitzgerald indicated the board wanted to resolve the encroachment issues as quickly as possible. Nearly 4 months ago, your office was tasked with obtaining a survey to find the boundaries to the already surveyed recorded right-of-ways. Have you taken this step? If not, why not? Or have you advised the board that another survey is unnecessary based on the surveys already performed by the board? I refer to the Alta survey that the board commissioned prematurely and which has already been purchased by the citizens of Shoshone County. Whether state law or the citizens of Shoshone County require this costly and timely consuming step before the board complies with the provisions of IC 40-2319 does indeed concern my client. This is especially pertinent when the board has not required any surveys of other right-of-ways before mandating the encroachment located on them be removed immediately. Several examples follow. As in the September 1st, 2021 meeting, immediately after discussing the sale of an airplane hangar, a woman asked the board about its position on Mr. Avery and Mr. Israel's preventing the public from using what could be county right-of-way. Apparently, the gentleman in question placed fences or gates on certain roadways, which may or may not have been recorded right-of-ways. The board insisted the fences or gates near Mr. Avery's property be removed immediately. The board required Mr. Israel to remove his blocked access on the recorded right-of-way within 30 days. In response to her queries, the board chairman assured her that the board insisted Mr. Avery and Mr. Israel remove the barriers on the public right-of-way because We do not close public right-of-ways without having a formal decision made on them. The board did not require that the area be surveyed before ordering Mr. Avery or Mr. Israel to remove the encroachments in question. So, and it goes on to just point out the contradictions of, you know, the Ludwigs had to remove their stuff, and so why is nothing being done? The Tapman's petition was before the board for almost 3 years before the board finally made a decision. In that time, the board has taken swift action, less than 30 days, to remove encroachments from other possible right-of-ways to facilitate recreationalists' access to public lands. On the other hand, Minde Beehner, one of Brookside's managers, began speaking with the previous road and bridge supervisors about removing encroachments in 2016. My client requests that you hire the surveyor and get the pins located so the public and the board will know the precise location of the public right-of-way. Better still would be to inform the board that a survey is unnecessary and advise it to authorize the removal of the encroachments on the recorded right-of-ways in accordance with state statute. Please consider this letter as an official request to take action and follow the dictates of Idaho Code 2319(2) and 3. Your response to this letter is requested by close of business day, October 5th. So nothing had taken place. Then it started letters back and forth between Keisha and the attorney, you know, reasons why it was taking so long to get a surveyor, and
Isn't that when HMH lost their surveyor?
Yes. Yeah, this wasn't completed. Alta's wasn't completed because they contracted with HMH. And no, actually, Alta's wasn't completed to the point of recording because they lost their surveyor. Then they went to HMH to get the stakes. So anyway, the attorney had basically made a request and put a date on it. So all of a sudden, because I feel, and the attorney for Brookside Development felt, because a demand was made and nothing had been taken place, in order to show that something was going on, the Board of County Commissioners set a meeting at the beginning of November of 2021, and they did, and it was very interesting because, again, Matt, I don't know if you were there, I was there, but people that both the Tapmans and the Ludwigs showed up to this meeting. Haven't been at a meeting ever, so it was kind of like, oh, okay. The commissioners actually do a finding of facts and conclusion of law or order of decision for a meeting that they held here to go ahead and tell the Tapmans and write the letter that says, you know, hey, your garage is encroaching on our road. Again, they've admitted that it's their road now. And this is from the prosecuting attorney's office, the letter of encroachment, saying, you know, we know it's an encroachment. You guys know it's an encroachment. We're not worried about doing anything at this time. So that is basically the last time really anything from the courthouse has come out. They have, let's see, the commissioners then decided they were going to hire from the bids that Keisha got, a third surveyor. This time they chose to go with Stratton. He put a cap of $8,000 on his bid to them. In the, again, public records request, Stratton at one point had to pin the county down on what exactly they wanted surveyed, because it started out like Brookside Avenue, and then it was like, okay, go and locate all of this stuff and get ready to survey that. And there are emails, like I said, where Stratton states that, you know, it was a moving target that he had to do. We had a change in public works to a new fourth person. Then 2 commissioners left and 2 new commissioners came in, and so there was a lot of upheaval. So actually everything went kind kind of stagnant there. After they hired Stratton, everything sort of sat. Mike Fitzgerald resigned. Tracy Cassidy came in. I actually, in July of 2022, I went and met with Ben to find out what was going on with Stratton's survey. And Ben facilitated getting maps to straighten out where things were supposed to be done on the survey, because Fitzgerald was leaving and we were going to be, you know, up a creek without a paddle because all of the history was going. So I did that in July of 2022. He reached out to the commissioners, made sure that, you know, the whole area was part of it, and got the ball rolling again, because Keisha had left and he had just come in. In November of 2022, I notified Ben that it looked like Public Works had been left out of the loop on this mapping of what Stratton was going to do, which there was probably one of my biggest mistakes. I should have just left it at the commissioner's level and not involved Public Works or P&Z again, because at this point, I don't feel Public Works or P&Z have anything to say or should be any contact with it, because the encroachments are a commissioner's issue, and what this map Stratton's come up with, or what these other maps are, is a commissioner's issue. It's not a roads department issue or a P&Z issue. But again, I have tried to be transparent on everything, and so I brought him back into the loop, and that bit me in the hiney. So let's see, that was a bunch of nothings.
So we don't know if Stratton's been recorded yet.
His has not been recorded because you guys haven't, you know, I mean, honestly, there wasn't the meeting when you and Mr. Dose first came in, that one of the people from Public Works was so upset that the Beehners had taken the meeting over, that Stratton came to talk to you in February of 2023 about his map. And, you know, there were things that Public Works was trying to say that I did not agree with, and I was asked a question, and then, yes, we participated in the meeting, possibly more than we should have, but definitely it was 3 commissioners, because Tracy was there at the time, that had no clue about any of this previous pages of stuff that had gone on. So anyway, Stratton met with you guys in 2023, and then until Mr. Dose arranged the big meeting in October of 2023 that was going to be the big final, we'll have everything explained and make decisions from there. All of a sudden it has become that there's 3 or 4 maps, and Stratton won't commit to one of them, and we don't, you know, and honestly, I don't know. My dealings with Stratton on a professional basis for personal issue or personal property stuff he's always been above and board. I mean, he isn't into the drama of everything and that. He just wants to put the facts out there and be done with it, kind of thing. But I don't know what's going on downstairs. I guess basically, to sum this up, because it's gone way longer than I told Sydney it would, I would request that, because I can't do public records requests anymore, and that the last one I tried to do a little over a year ago was going to cost me $12,000, and so
On what?
I requested that email, like an email search of things pertaining to Canyon Edition, with a few more emails than I normally had done, but I've done these in the past, and I have the record that shows you put the query in of whatever the email's addresses are, the date, and the words that I had listed on there, and it literally took, 3 minutes for it to do it, and then obviously there's some time to do the search, some time to transfer it over. But this last time that I requested it, the date frame was a 2-year time frame, and the public records request was denied until I deposited just under $12,000 for IT, prosecuting attorney, and clerk time. And, at that point I was kind of like, okay, so that's the game we're going to play now, because, again...
Now, was that for information prior?
It was for information between February 6th of 2022, which I think was the last time that I had done one, and February 6th of 2024. So it was a 2-year time frame. Again, you know, you can see on the little query that your IT guy does that he punches in the dates, he punches in, you know, like he types in the information, he hits the button. The computer does the stuff. It's doing this stuff. It's not that you have to sit there and look at it or anything else. Once the query's done, and then he has to transfer it or something, yes, there could be a large amount of information, but I even had kind of narrowed it down in that. But I also at that point was, again, just out of frustration that like $12,000 to be able to find out what's been being said, because it's the only way that I've ever gotten any information from the county. And so, you know, my hands are crossed, or my hands are locked now. So I'm basically at the point now where, you know, Melissa has heard me in January when I came and kind of gave you the blurbs. More than welcome to look something up or bring in a piece of paper that I've obviously left sitting on my desk or something like that. But I don't know what Public Works was doing with Ben, and Mr. Dose was involved in part of the meetings, and Stratton, for what discussions were done that, you know, different maps. I mean, I only see the map. I mean, there are some versions. He did like he tried shifting something after that October.
Did he ever put any pins out there?
No.
No pins on him.
No, he hasn't done any pins. And I can't, like I said, his is 8,000 was his cap, and I think the last time I looked, 6,000 something had been spent. Compared to information gotten and money spent, you know, it's probably the best amount of money that you've spent, but it's not, you know, again, we're not across the line.
Right.
And again, I don't know why he's trying, you know, it's not matching up perfectly. It's, you know, to stuff from 1906, but, you know, I'm reading through his notes, and some of his stuff, he says that, you know, the Ludwig said he measured his garage from the railroad, and it's right on the edge of Tomsky Avenue, and he's had 2 or 3 surveys, but he didn't ever, well, none of them are recorded, and he never presented any of that information to Stratton. You know, I mean, it's a lot of
Ludwig's the one across the street that got
in here.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right, but Stratton references pins on there that were never recorded.
Yeah. He says that, you know, he showed him some pins down here that could have been part of something. And but again, if you go back to Alta's, I mean, yes, if I was Mr. Ludwig and I had my property surveyed, and there's nothing to show it out there, I'm going to tell you I measured off the railroad right away, because that is kind of what Stratton is trying to tie to, because it was a feature, which our private property was surveyed. This one was surveyed off of the railroad grade by Jim Banks, and is the closest of tying into anything.
And it's recorded.
And it was recorded. As was this one when we did it. It was recorded. So, but like I said, if you look at the overlay of Alta's, you know, yeah, you're probably going to want to say your garage is right on the edge of Tomsky Avenue, because you got about 10 feet sticking onto Tomsky Avenue. So, but anyway, like I said, I am requesting that you, Chairman Zimmerman, Mr. Dose has been involved in this and that, but I don't know who's in charge of Public Works. I think I went back to the meeting minutes when you guys assigned things, and it doesn't look like Public Works or P&Z was really assigned to anybody. I'm requesting that you, as the chairman, look into what is going on with Stratton's survey. What is
That's what I'll do, is I'll reach out to Stratton and see why, and ask why it hasn't been recorded, because that's a question I have. Why would we get a survey if it's not recorded?
Yeah. And like I said, so I'm just requesting, because I'm at the point of like, I'm tired of meeting with you guys.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things, you know, in order to go forward with anything, any decision or anything else, we have to have a recorded survey to go off of, so
Yeah.
I will call.
To a certain point, I mean, some of them,
With,
like the
Well, they
pole
did it.
in there, the pole in the middle of the road is like, okay, well, that's obvious, but anyway, that's, this is my request, that you reach out to Stratton and have him either come back and explain the survey to you guys again or whatever. I do not think, based off of what Keisha said, encroachments are now in the commissioner's hands. I do not see why P&Z has to be involved with Stratton's surveys, why anybody else has to be, because you now have a new landowner here who now has a Connex sitting back here on this road. So there's a new encroachment here, and it's actually, I think part of it's sitting on the alley a little. And I think he's got like a little tent thing over here. I think that's more than fine. But you've got I don't know how wide those are, 10 feet by 40 foot Connex that is sitting on a piece of property now. I don't know what it's going to become or anything. I don't know. I don't know if Dan Martinson's representing him in his private practice for any of the stuff that he's doing. I have no idea, but I would like some answers, and I would like them within like some sort of feedback of a timeline, not just, oh, we've got to get this stuff done soon. Again, I know that we're late.
with the understanding, like I said, Keisha did this with no survey. To me, the county accepted it. This works out for Alta, worked out for HMH, worked out for Chris Falls.
And mostly for
And then you get
Stratton.
to the point where Minde has an email where Stratton sent it to Public Works and said, I twisted the map as much as I can, but I cannot get that garage off the street. So that's in an email. So
Sydney, can you get a copy of this for me? For 2 copies of that? Just take it
can you
down.
do that big?
I can try. I don't know if I can do that big.
Well, take it, see if you can just have planning and zoning do it for us if you could.
Okay. If
Just
they're
get us to. And if there's anything further, any questions, public? You look confused, Joe.
Sorry, Joe, I'm long-winded.
Well, no, I guess not. I guess I would say one thing, it seems like there's been a lot of decisions made by people who didn't have the authority or
No, I mean, I don't-
jurisdiction to make it. There's 3 surveys that all agree, they all had to start with the
Close the
same
meeting.
control point. Stratton must not be starting with the same control when they do a survey. And why some of them aren't recorded, I don't know why that is.
So that's one of the things, when they're not recorded, how do you know their starting point?
Yeah, right. But still, you should have had a map of some kind, and you should be able to just ask him, where do you control from? Where do you begin?
Can I throw 2 cents
Yeah.
into this? Most of the time I see that they're not recorded, that people don't like where the pins are.
That's
Right,
true.
Joe?
That's very true. Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner Cowles?
No.
No?
Sorry for the length of time.
Nope, that's
No,
okay.
I'm hoping this is the last time I have to
All right.
show you anything.
Well, meeting adjourned. Thank you.